Marco Colucci. Marco, portfolio accepted.
Can I just say, damn. If I had half that kind of talent when I was your age, holy cow. Like, you have a crazy grip on life. It's really sophisticated, and I'm really impressed. And it's great. I'm definitely, like, your portrait work stands head and shoulders. You have 3 shots that totally do not fit in here. And I feel like, yeah, these are really weak compared to everything else. They stand out. And I think maybe in somebody else's portfolio they'd be like, okay, but considering the level of your work everywhere else, these don't have like your craft and your vision. And, you know, these remind me of like Gregory Crutzen. You've got some beautiful like vagueness going on. They're just really nicely handled with light. In fact, go ahead.
No, I think that one of the 3 boys is like a masterpiece. I think that's
Totally.
It's really, really great. It's also because it's completely unforced and completely, like, it just looks like a real moment. The quality of the light is amazing, but it also looks effortless. You know, it's really, really super cool. That's like super cool photo.
Yeah, and there's just enough going on that it creates a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking a little about this yesterday, is sometimes it's the moment before something happens.
Yeah.
There's a pregnant tension, and that's kind of a tricky thing to find. And it's sometimes it's just a matter of picking it out of the edit, but also this was fully created, so you know what you're going for. And it's obvious because it's not something that just accidentally happens, it happens consistently through your portfolio, and I think that's really impressive. And this shot I love because you're mixing your ambient with your strobes, and you just nailed all the balances. Like, everything is put together. It's crazy good stuff.
You make light equal to the subject of the picture? Do you know what I mean? Like, light is a character in its unusual placement, like under the tree and in the mysterious kind of garagey kind of place. So that's really unusual conceptually. Usually light enhances something, but this is equal to what is being depicted.
The other thing I'd say is your still life, you definitely have it with the light, but I think that it's lacking the story, the irony, the stuff that is more of a narrative in your portrait work. These are just very quick short stories. They're not either complicated by, say, angles, views, or composition. So this is not, I mean, in a sense, this is almost your strongest for your still lifes, even though it's the most simple. You've kept it really elegant, and I think some of the other ones get a little confusing. But love the work. Really nice stuff.
What motivates you, so to speak? We will go out and we look at our pictures later, then we figure out what motivated us. But I'm just curious when you're going out, because we are so blown away by the top row and a little underwhelmed by the still life, and hopefully you'll never need the people in the grass. So I'm just wondering what motivates you, because you've got such a strong thrust.
I mean, just the motivation of just like always searching for something to not fall back on, but that motivation to keep you going. So like I have this obsession of like pictures where someone's looking at something, but you don't know what they're looking at, so it leaves that mystery of like, what are they looking at, like why are they there? So I mean, I'm always looking for something new to do and something else just like to keep me going. So I guess that's what
Would you
motivates me.
pre-visualize, or do you go out and then say, oh, I think I'll put the light under the tree instead of, from the street lamp or something?
It was all spontaneous.
So may I ask, where do you see yourself going in a career? Tell me about, what's your vision? Because you have a very definite style. I just love the portraits on the second row. I think they're very, very cool. And what I like about them, especially, I think the one that I'm drawn to, I think this is just amazing.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is the fact that the lighting is perfect for the subject. It's very sinister looking, and the way that you've used almost ghoul light to create that, to give that kind of, binge kind of feel, I think is really quite remarkable. It's I feel that it's older than you. That you've got a very wise soul. You're an older person inside because you feel it. It's not a superficial photograph. It's very thoughtful. There's a lot of thought given to your imagery, and I think that's one of the things that I was very captivated by. And so that's why I want to know kind of where do you kind of see yourself going? If you could write your plan for tomorrow, what is it?
I'd go back home. I'd like to do occupational portraits of like the mechanic. I'd like to do stuff like that.
Where's home?
Portraits, San Diego. I like to do portraits. I like to do fine art, just like keep my motivation, like stuff like the guy with the tree or like the three boys. I mean, I like to do I like to do a lot of storytelling with my imagery too. So I mean, portraits, occupational portraits.
Magazines or-
anything really, yeah, editorial too.
See, I see that like the three pictures that are the ones that are the weakest. They didn't have to be the weakest though. I think you kind of compartmentalize. Okay, I have to do a couple, and you got just like safe. Let's get it done with. And yet, I'd love to have seen you take that edgy style that you have on that top row and bring it to that segment, because there's such a very great segment of the market that would love that. These young, cool couples that this kind of feel has, they would love that kind of style. And so, to me, put the couple on the step that's just doesn't make sense to me to have that up there. Then, that and the young lady sitting on the grass, those are just so safe that I'd love to see you. My challenge for you would be to say, make it true to who you are, and find a way to make, what someone wants, make it fall within your plan of activity, because it can absolutely happen.
And black and white is so refreshing.
I love black and white.
Yeah.
It's funny, it actually made me think, I should work on black and white some more. Do you think you're going to do assistant?
Yes.
I think that would be good. I think
Definitely.
that the chance to expose yourself to some different styles of working
Mm-hmm.
kind of just broaden the vocabulary. But also, I think almost as important, or maybe more, is the thing that you can't learn as much here or anywhere is the business side of it, and getting the sense of how photographers work and negotiate and doing all of that is really valuable.
Yeah, I couldn't stress to you enough the importance of learning how to monetize what you're doing, your craft, because if you can monetize your love, then you never really work a day in your life. And to get to do what you love to do after 30 years or 25 years or whatever, man, it just doesn't get any better than that. And it's especially important in our day and age because so many people these days, have devalued photography. It's not worth anything anymore. And what's really exciting about you as a person is that you have a style. I mean, at such a young age to have a developed style is really just remarkable. And I'd love to see you take that uniqueness and really embrace that unique feel, because that's what's going to set you apart. And that means you don't have to start at the bottom of the food chain. And that's really important, is not to have to do that. That way you can become, because you have a unique voice, they can't go, get who you are somewhere else by somebody who's going to, give them all the digital files and, who's going to do, well, I can get that done cheaper, because they can't get that. somewhere else. They can't get that vision. And that's a really important thing. So try to think about, ways that you can monetize that. And working for a studio is just an awesome thing because it'll not only teach you what to do, but more importantly, you'll define, there'll be so many things that'll happen. You'll go, note to self, I am never doing that. And because you learn by, sometimes you can learn from others' mistakes. So it's a really great way to go.
I don't think you mean literally a studio, but a photographer who's in business because.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, but photography
location.
studio, there's like, if you have a studio, I mean, you're
I
not.
work in the studio.
Right, you work in a studio, so I'm not speaking specifically like Olin Mills. That would be just ridiculous. But I'm saying, a photographer who has, business of some sort, so.
Yeah, but does location. Actually, you should pick someone you admire. Like
Yeah.
when I grow up, I'd like to be like whatever, and approach them, send them the portfolio. Well, not send them the 10 plus maybe one for Greg can, be better at this than I am. But I know when people write to me that they love my work and inspired by whatever, and it's a respectful letter, not just, hey, I love your work, would you mind having lunch with me and telling me, people that just presume they come in, can I watch a shoot? And, so a respectful letter showing that you really know the work and care about the work, and then your picture so they know you're talented and say, I would really love to come work for you. Then you will, just not know the way a studio works, but you will, as inspired as you are now, you will be even more inspired. And then also, that person who's presumably established can start networking for you because they can call in and say, hey, I have a young assistant. And,
The thing I have to stress, though, and this is really advice for everybody, is that everybody hears that you should get in touch with a photographer that you really admire, and you should write them a letter, and everybody does that, and then they don't hear back, and they go, damn, and that's the end of it. And you need to be persistent. And as an example, when I was working with Gregory and I ran the studio, we used to get literally hundreds of assistants. And the file was like 5-6 inches thick of resumes. And what I would do is every time they would call back, I would go through the file, find their resume, and I'd move it to the front. And then every 6 months, I'd throw away 4 inches of resumes. Because those people never bothered to get in touch with me again. And it's just like, if it wasn't that important to them, it's not that important to me to keep in touch with them. And we had one girl who just did not have any kind of skills. She had kind of weak work, but what she had was persistence. And she kept in touch for over a year and a half. And I remember actually I went to you and I just said we totally have to use this girl. She has been after us, get her on to a job as a third assistant. And eventually she started working with you quite a bit. But you have to be persistent. And that's not just about being an assistant, it's about your whole career. And that is something that if you can't handle the fact that you get rejected every once in a while, it's just never going to work out. You need to be absolutely doggedly persistent. And
and I have to tell you, that is so true. 4 years ago, I hired my first intern ever from Hallmark, Colin Pattison. Some of you folks might know him. And Colin literally hounded the crap out of me. I did not want an assistant. I don't like interns as general rule because I have a real definite flow the way things go. I just pay my people to do it, and then there's no surprises, no drama. And this kid literally just worked me to death until I finally just gave up. But that's only part of it. It's not just persistence. The most important quality that you must possess is humility. My motto is humility over ability. Because you can teach a humble person anything. If someone comes into my studio and they sit with me and they interview and they say, well, I can do this and I can do that and I want to do this and I want to do that. This is what's going through baby's mind. Blah, 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 blah. I don't give a rat's backside about you. I'm really concerned about my business and where my company is going. I have other things to think about. However, if I have a student that comes in and says, this is an area I can maybe really help you. This, do this, this, and this, and I really want to learn. Have that humble spirit and make it real, because first of all, you're going to find out that we're totally screw-ups in many ways, and that we don't know, that we're not all that, we don't know everything, and that there are some great places. You can become our hero by being the person that says, there's a need, what can I do to fill it? And I got to tell you, that's what Colin did fabulously, is that I would say, gosh, I wish I knew how to do this, or I wish I could have answered this. And within 10 minutes, he would have found an answer. He didn't sit and wait for me to tell him what to do. He would find an answer for that, and I was like, oh, wow, that made my job easier.
It's totally, yeah, absolutely. It's something that I remember as a kid, my grandfather used to yell at me because I'd be sitting around and he'd be just like, don't just sit there, grab a broom, do something, look for what needs to be done. And it's a weird thing, but it totally is the case when you're an assistant. Like when you get that job, like if you sure as hell don't ever want to come back to a studio, what you can do is sit there and text when nothing is going down. I will fire your ass so fast for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that the assistant that comes in, and I have a girl, Gabby, in the city that I absolutely adore working with because she comes in, and a lot of times on a still life set, it's slow. And she just disappears, and I come back 5 minutes later, and she's cleaned all the dishes again, she's reorganized, she's stacked the shelves, she's neatened everything, she's filed things, and it's like literally, there are times when I'm just like, Gabby, sit down and like do some emails or something, because like you have done everything. The studio is spotless, she scrubbed wax off the floor, like, and I will hire her every single time. She is like my favorite to work with, just because she really puts in the extra mile to see what needs to be done.
And it's not about being our little slaves or anything like that, but it's about, there's so many little things that you can learn, you know, by following someone along. And when you become someone that they trust and that they realize is part of their team, they open the keys to the kingdom to you, and
Yeah,
they will go out of their way to do whatever needs to be to help you out. And it is such a powerful tool. The first year that I worked as a photographer, I literally was this guy's little, you know, his little slave. If he said to jump, I said, how high? And if he wanted me to park the car, trust me, he didn't ask me. I said, I'll park the car, you go do your thing. And the guy literally handed me the keys to the studio, and I ran the studio. I got to do whatever I wanted. But it gave me my entry to the most amazing profession that there is, and get to live my dream. And gosh, it just doesn't get better than that. And the other thing is don't get so hung up on the fact that your work has to be perfect. I know yesterday, maybe we were a little hard on some of the folks, and you were thinking, I heard one comment last night that one of the young ladies was saying, gosh, I could never work for Bambi. She didn't like my photos. That's not really the point. It's not about what you do right now. It's what are you going to do a year from now or 5 years from now? And it's how do you take critique and criticism. Don't take that as a negative. That's the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because we don't learn from what we do wrong. We learn from what we do right. We learn from the things that we screw up on. And then we go, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I always think like Scarlett O'Hara, tomorrow's another day.
I think too, you should get out with your portfolio right away. And you feel, well, it's not going to be better in 6 months, it'll be better in a year, it's not good enough, whatever. And this is, all the Hallmark grads I work with, all, the top of the class like you. And what are they waiting for? A whole year goes by, and it hasn't progressed so much, which is one other thing that you have to just keep pretending you're in school once a week, taking these pictures, because once you're out in the real world, you find it all the time. But what I tell people, which was true for me when I was peddling all kinds of the portfolios years ago, no art director sits with you and writes down Marco Colucci, no good. If they don't like it, they don't remember it, and you come back a year later, and you start again. So you're wrong not to get in on that ladder, because the other thing is, if there are things that they don't like in your book for a good reason or bad reason, you might as well learn about it, because you need feedback as to what art directors and art buyers and magazine editors are looking for. And if you just stay in a bubble waiting for the perfect book along, your lights, you're going to miss that whole growth opportunity. And again, no one remembers, no one keeps a record. If I see a models or dancer, I don't write down the ones no good. I only write down the ones that are good. And even the ones that are good, I'm going to forget, because there's so many coming at me. So I think the moment is now to pick 10 pictures or, whatever it is.
That's good advice, because it reminds me of David, who's a fantastic photographer without the self-confidence to put himself out there. And everybody knew he was great, except for him. And he didn't get himself out there, and it's really important.
And people are
And still
looking for
has
new
it.
talent.
Yeah,
People are
that's the tragic
actually
thing.
looking for someone new, because the New York Times Magazine or the San Diego, whatever it is, wants to not use the same people other people use. Everyone's looking for a new look and a new person. And they're gonna like you. That's the other thing. We're a service industry, which means, of course, you have to be, the client is always right when we try not to throw hissy fits or whatever. But the other thing is you have to be someone they want to work with. I mean, that's the first impression before they even look at the book. Is this guy, uptight? Is he too aggressive or whatever? And so.
That could be a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Not with you, but the point is people are going to like you and feel that you're, genuine, enthusiastic, and open, and that's going to work for you as much as your pictures are, because people hire people. They don't actually hire the portfolio, to reproduce itself.
And they don't necessarily hire the person who has all of the awards. Sometimes they hire you, it's, maybe you aren't, like, you don't have this, it's not all perfect, but it's got that unique special quality. More than that, like you just said, they hire people because they like you.
The other thing is we're looking from a very artistic point of view, and I think you also have to be in the other, when you get this by experience, like what are they looking for? Sometimes what we think they want, but seems to match what they publish, is not the way they're thinking about it, even if the picture sort of looks the same. So maybe you look at your work and say, what article could this illustrate? And kind of work backwards, and you'd say, well, gee, I can't imagine anyone using, one picture, maybe it's Prozac, or maybe it's this or that, or, how drugged we are, like an advertisement for Prozac. But look at all the magazines and see the kind of illustrations, because you're kind of like photo illustrator in some ways, in a sophisticated way. And there's some things that look photojournalistic, and you're going to blend all that in your own unique way. But you're actually, even though you're interested in the art and the craft, and we all are, it's a message you're delivering to an illustrative message that they're looking for. And I'm always surprised when I look at it from the other end, what people may see in my pictures and why it fits their message. And they parse it into really narrow categories sometimes that we don't even think about. So try looking from the other end, I think, and say, well, what articles could it, or look at the magazines and see how they choose. And that'll you can give yourself assignments, like here's an article on texting generation, I don't know. And then what would you come up with if someone is trying to talk about that, or any of the concepts now. So I think
you handle a lot of complicated things really well, and your pictures all have like a real concept going. And I think that's what people will respond to in a big way. Again, I think people are responding a lot to that top row, and they're complicated pictures, and you really pull them off like masterfully. So I think you got a good start, Marco. Thank you. Congratulations.
It's like my birthday.
You did so well. I love your stuff.
Congratulations.
Congrats, dude.
Congrats, man. Great job.
It's good, dog. What are you doing?
They're loading a record.
10,000?
I saw, yeah.
Margot.